everyone, and welcome back to my dream world. First of all, thank you so much for the support that I've had on my most recent video, which was my Dance Moms reunion recap. That is the most I have ever had in terms of views and likes and comments on one of my videos, and it was just a really good feeling. So for those of you that subscribed because of that, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and welcome back to the channel. Second of all, happy Pride! To those who celebrate, to everybody, to the allies, to the members, to everyone. Happy Pride. But this episode, or this video, is going to be another episode of my Nostalgia Trip series. If you haven't seen this series before, this is a series where I rewatch shows that I liked as a kid and see if my opinion has changed or if I have a new perspective than I did when I was a kid. So for this episode, we will be doing season 4 of My Little Pony. I've done the first 3 seasons, so please check those out if you haven't already. But after kind of thinking about those previous videos that I've done, I've decided to restructure the way I'm going to do these videos. I'm going to split it into 2 parts. The first part's going to be about my overall opinion of the season, plus my childhood perspective and how my opinion has changed, if it has. And the second one is going to be a ranking of the episodes and a discussion of each individual one in depth. This is just something I'm trying out. If it is received well, then this is probably going to be the new formula for this series. And then I can go back and do some rankings for the prior seasons that followed the older formula where I would just talk at you for like an hour. So if you're not used to this format, the format of the video is going to be podcast style. I may insert clips from the show for effect, but this is a recap and a review rather than a reaction. Spoilers will be present throughout this video for season 4 of My Little Pony and for future seasons. If you haven't seen the entire show, this probably isn't for you, and that's totally cool. But with that out of the way, I'm gonna hop right into the video. Season 4 of My Little Pony is generally considered to be one of, if not the fan favorite season of the entire Gen 4 series. It's almost always top 3 for people as far as I've seen, and to be honest, I semi-agree. Before any of you try to fight me, let me explain. I feel like the arcs for both the main characters and the primary plot of this season are very, very consistent. And they end up tying together really nicely in the end. And I think that's one reason why this is held so high on people's rankings. In terms of an overall season arc, I do think it's the best, at least out of the 4 that I've reviewed so far. I'll definitely dive into this a little deeper later, but I do want to mention in terms of like individual episodes averaging out, I think I may have enjoyed season 1 and season 2 more. However, for those seasons, the season arcs aren't very strong. Because in season 1, we kind of have like a lot of build up, getting to know the characters. There's the Grand Galloping Gala in the end, but we don't really focus on that all that much. And then in season 2, there's more build up, more character dynamics, more learning about the world. But the finale, while amazing and iconic, there's not that much lead up to it. And then season 3, the premiere and the finale are connected, as well as a few sprinkle-ins throughout the season, but it's not quite as solidified as season 4. And I think that's why this season stands out, because we see bits and pieces of what is important about this season from the beginning all the way through to the very last part of the episode. I also kind of noticed that while I was watching, other than the premiere, the key episodes for each character, I'll get into that, what that means to me later, and a few other episodes that are considered iconic in the fandom, I didn't actually remember this season as well as I thought that I did. Because I went into this thinking it was my favorite as a kid, I remember this entire season, but I didn't. I think I even remembered season 3 much more. Even though that could be because it's shorter, but if I averaged it out actually on a graph because I just wanted to see, in terms of season episodes and the percentage of what I remembered pretty much all of season 1, most of season 2, most of season 3, but I was missing a good portion of season 4 in my memory. And that surprised me a lot. I also thought that the pacing was a little bit weird. Again, before y'all come at me, I think it was a really good idea to spread out the plot pieces, because that way we kind of would get snapped back into the main arc throughout, because we have like the premiere, a few episodes, a key episode, a few more episodes, another key episode, so on until we get to the finale. That was a very good decision, and I liked that, but it was also really weird going into the finale for me, because the episodes right before it are some of my least favorite episodes of the season, and just like don't really connect to it all that strongly. And because of that, I kind of went into the finale like, even though I knew I was gonna like it. Because other seasons kind of have you like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what happens next. Well, this season I was like, okay, it's finale time, let's go. So that's what I mean when I say pacing. I feel like this season could have been stronger if there was a slightly different order, because it felt a little choppy in terms of episode consistency. I don't want to call this season overrated. It's beloved for a reason, and I agree with why it's beloved. However, I think I overhyped it for myself. Childhood me loved this season, or at least the parts of the season that I remembered so much, that I went into this thinking like, oh yeah, it was my favorite, it's going to continue being my favorite. And I'm not sure if I agree with that anymore. So in this case, nostalgia actually worked against me. Now that I've expressed my initial thoughts, I'm going to break things down by the main arcs of the season and each character arc that was explored. I think I've already mentioned this, but the premiere was excellent. It sets up the arc and the plot for the entire remainder of the season. And while there are a few inconsistencies, and I'm talking minor ones, like Twilight suddenly being terrible at flying when in the season 3 finale, she leapt off of the castle and flew towards the screen with complete ease right after being crowned princess. But other than that, it also solidifies Twilight's arc of the season. And that's a very, very strong arc that I'm going to dive deeper into once I get to the individual arcs. But everything sets up super, super nicely with this premiere. It's not too exposition-like, but it does dive into some lore that we continue to explore throughout the season and future seasons as well. It gives us an idea of what our characters are going to go through. It keeps things like Celestia and Luna's old castle prevalent, even circled back to in episodes that might be considered filler, like Castlemania and Power Ponies. We circle back to the castle there, so it's in our minds the entire time, and I feel like that works in this season's favor. This creates a consistency. It reminds us about the important parts of the season, what's going to continue being explored, even if it's not being specifically built on in that moment. It kind of flicks our brains back to, oh, that's right, the castle. Oh, that's right, the chest, which is the main part of the finale, and it's revealed at the end of the premiere, which is one of the most like focused in on parts of the season. There's something that's repeatedly touched on throughout this season because of that, through each pony's individual arc. And I think that's why this is just such a strong way to tie the season together, because it's a slow build-up, and in the final 2 episodes, everything kind of clicks in place. It's like, oh, that's why that happened. That's why we discovered this since the beginning of this season. And it isn't just thrown together conveniently in the last 2 episodes of the season when the main characters need to discover something or need to act. Once we get to the finale, because of what I've already described, it just works so well. The second half of the finale, so episode 26, it's one of the most entertaining and satisfying episodes we have yet. My only critique about the finale itself, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more build-up for Tyrek. I kind of feel like he was just thrown in there. And I know that some people are going to be like, well, it's the same thing for Chrysalis and Sombra, who were some of our previous villains. Discord is a whole nother story, but Chrysalis and Sombra also just kind of appear in the season 2 finale and the season 3 premiere. But I feel like the buildup for them as villains worked a little bit better despite the time constraints of their time on the show. And it feels like there's more to them to be explored in this universe, while Tyrek kind of just pops in, reaches peak power, and then almost immediately gets taken out. I feel like with Chrysalis and Sombra, there was a little bit more of a struggle to actually like defeat them and discoveries along the way, while with Tyrek, it kind of just happens immediately in the last like portion of the final episode. So it's just kind of like, okay, that felt a tad bit rushed to me, if that makes sense. But I don't think it hinders the season at all, because it doesn't take away from the finale. It's a beautifully wonderful visual fight. Well, like, that was a mouthful, but I just love that final fight scene of Twilight versus Tyrek. It's so good. It holds up really well since the first time I watched it, when I think I was 11, y'all. Like, I was young. Those were good times. So those are like, that's the main two, like the premiere tying into the finale. And I think that's the first time we've really had that instance. Other than maybe season 3, but season 3 was kind of all over the place. Like, yes, it ties in, but not completely. It isn't quite as direct and detailed. Then there's a lot of episodes that may be considered filler or just for fun or comedic relief. And the only reason I might call them filler, I don't necessarily think that all of them are filler, but the reason I'll call them filler in this video is because there's a lot of episodes that don't actually contribute to the main arc of the season, nor any major character arcs, even if they were kind of meant to. And I think that this is actually a big weak point for this season for me. I don't feel like too many of the episodes really hinder the season itself. Some of them are actually kind of fun. Personally, I enjoy Power Ponies despite it being completely skippable in general, but it does make it slightly less watchable because many of them deviate from the main plot and the arcs that each character goes through, and there are just several episodes I feel like you can skip when you watch this season. This is in the assumption that there aren't any future seasons. Some of them, and since we're getting to the seasons that I don't actually remember all that much after this, especially after season 5, I don't remember how many of them actually tie into the later seasons, but it doesn't really feel like it's a lot of them, because a lot of the later seasons are lore, universe expansion, and other things. So it's just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that, but yeah, there are several episodes that you can skip up to this point, I would say. As for individual arcs, I'll start with some of the minor ones. We do have a little bit of an arc for the CMCs. Flight to the Finish is actually one of the first CMC-centered episodes that I really liked. There's Cutie Mark Chronicles in season 1, which is one of my favorites. I think maybe my favorite episode of season 1. But that episode was actually more about the main 6 and their connection to each other, even though it featured the Cutie Mark Crusaders. So I really was happy about this, because if you've watched my previous episodes, I was hating on them. I was, so sorry. I also love For Whom the Sweetie Belle Tolls. Rarity and Sweetie Belle's dynamic is fantastic. I also love Sisterhood Social, one of my favorite Sweetie Belle episodes. And while Sweetie Belle does make some pretty awful mistakes in that episode, she does horrible things. Like, she could have ruined Rarity's career, and Rarity is My Little Pony. So don't come at me. I love Rarity. So I was kind of like, Sweetie Belle. Like, I forgot how devious and spiteful she was in that episode. But I do feel like despite all of that her actions were well established throughout the episode, and it came together well in the end. So I liked the CMCs. And then of course there's Twilight Time. I'm not the biggest fan of that episode, but it kind of like recenters their identity as ponies that are still trying to figure themselves out. And that's part of their arc. So I think that it works. Like, the CMCs worked this season. which is great. And I enjoyed their presence. Then there's Spike, but two of the Spike centered episodes that are in this season were really not my favorite. In fact, two of them actually landed in my bottom 5 episodes of the season, just like last season when the 2 Spike episodes ended up being my 2 least favorites as well. What's weird is I think Power Ponies is actually my favorite Spike episode of this season. Because even though it's completely filler, like that is an episode that is filler, absolutely. It doesn't really do anything for the plot. You could skip it, you don't really miss anything. But for Spike, it does kind of establish his position on the team without trying to make him carry the entire episode, with some of the really weird antics he had throughout Inspiration Manifestation as well as Equestria Games. I had secondhand embarrassment for him in those episodes, but Power Ponies, it kind of felt like he was like figuring out his role on the team and then accepting that even though he's not always needed every single second, that he is a valued member of the group. That worked really well for him, and it didn't feel like he was trying to lead the entire episode because we still had enough focus on the other main 6 characters. So yeah, Power Pony's supremacy for Spike. The other episodes that I mentioned, though, they had me understanding how he felt, but like I said, secondhand embarrassment and very little sympathy for him overall. He just didn't handle things well. I'll discuss these later in depth during the episode ranking, but Power Ponies wins for best Spike episode of the season. Then we get into the main character arcs. I'm gonna call them the key episodes. Each of the main 6 have an episode kind of dedicated to their journey in this season. I'm going to call them the key episodes because if you know, the treasure chest, duh. But yeah, each of them has their own solo episode where they struggle with identifying with their element of harmony in some way, and then a few episodes of dedication throughout the season. So in my opinion, some of these arcs did work better than others. I'm going to start with my girl Rarity, or my pony Rarity, I don't know. I'm trying to keep in the lingo. I really enjoyed Rarity's individual arc of this season. I've already displayed a little bit of my distaste for Inspiration Manifestation, and then there's Simple Ways, which is kind of a fun but goofy episode. It's more of like just kind of a silly one for Rarity, but Rarity takes Manhattan, and this might be a hot take. It's one of my favorite episodes of the season. And the reasoning for this is because I felt like it just worked perfectly for the purpose of her overarching arc, sorry, y'all, I can't talk, and for her character in general, because her generous nature is very well established almost immediately, but then it ends up hurting her instead of helping her when she's betrayed by a fashion competitor in the competition display. It's Fashion Week, so it puts her in a really tough position. She also ends up having a low moment while trying to come out of this tough position with her friends, and then she realizes that she put the competition before them. And this kind of gives her an epiphany moment, and she's like, oh gosh, I need to make it up to my friends. The competition doesn't really matter, even though it's big for my career. And she makes steps to make it up to them, and they're able to tell her, girl, you had a bad moment. It's okay because we know that you're not going to do it again and that it's not a normal thing for you. You're usually much better than that. It doesn't take away from her character, and it's a learning process for her that comes out working out in the end. I just really felt like that episode worked for the purpose of this season, for the purpose of Rarity's character, and was just a fun one to watch overall. I really liked that episode. Then there's Fluttershy. Fluttershy also has a good arc. We see her struggle with anxiety in Philly Vanilli, which is a really fun and relatable episode, but her main episode, It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's, forced her to see kindness from a different angle. She wants to do what's best for the Breezys. She really feels like taking care of them is the right thing to do, but then she realizes that if she doesn't let them go, they're never going to get back home, and that's a far worse outcome. So she has to kind of put on some tough love and tell them to leave. But one of the good parts of this key episode is that I really felt like she inspired somebody else. Because, like, the whole point of each of those episodes is that they make another creature or pony realize, like, dang, I really need to work on this part, like, on kindness, on loyalty, on generosity, whatever. But Fluttershy directly speaks to Seabreeze, the main Breezy, about kindness and how yelling at the other Breezies is not going to help them get home faster. And Seabreeze has a tough time understanding that, but then once he tries being kinder, he sees that it has a much more positive impact. So that juxtaposition of Fluttershy learning to use a tougher form of kindness and Seabreeze reeling back and leading his team through kindness instead of just commanding them, that was an excellent juxtaposition, and I really, really enjoyed it. Applejack's arc wasn't my favorite. I love AJ, and I did really like her and her family's dynamic in Pinky Apple Pie, which is actually, spoiler alert, one of my favorite episodes of the season, but I could not freaking stand her and Some Pony to Watch Over Me. I'm sorry. I didn't like her at all, and I feel like that kind of hindered her character for me throughout the season. And her key episode, Leap of Faith, didn't have me as sympathetic towards her as I did towards Fluttershy and Rarity. I really respect that she wanted to do what's best for Granny and for Apple Bloom, but she was also the first one who kind of realized that the tonic that's centered around in this episode was a scam, and it just felt very, like, out of place and iffy on her part. Obviously, it ends up working out. I don't feel like it's a bad episode overall, but I didn't feel as invested or sympathetic towards her compared to the other Ponies key episodes. So I would say it's the second weakest. I'll get into the weakest, which is Rainbow Dash's solo arc. She disappointed me this season. I didn't feel like the struggle and the solidification on her exploring her element of loyalty was really there, unlike the other main six ponies. Unlike Rarity and Fluttershy, she doesn't get caught up in the moment and has, like, a bad moment and then has to adjust the way she sees her element. And unlike Applejack, she wasn't making bad decisions for a good reason. Like, she wasn't really doing it for any pony else. It's understandable if she was given that opportunity to fly with the Wonderbolts, why wouldn't she take it? But at the same time, it just felt very, very selfish and arrogant on her part, rather than struggling with loyalty due to, like, a personal matter or something. So I didn't really feel super sympathetic for her because she was just really condescending and rude towards her team pretty much that entire episode, because it's like, yeah, they're not the best, but, like, come on, are you just gonna abandon your team like that, even though they're the ones that really care about you? And the Wonderbolts were kind of shady during that entire episode too. Like, come on, don't you actually want to fly with your team? And I also do have to mention that this was the only key episode of the main six that I, in fact, did not remember. And I feel like that kind of says something. But I do want to mention that I really enjoyed Testing 1, 2, 3. This is actually, while it's not one of my favorite episodes of the season, it is one of my favorite episodes for Rainbow Dash because it really showed her strengths and how she absorbs things as a character. Also highly relatable because I have ADHD and her whole thing in that episode was giving very ADHD. I will discuss this later in the episode ranking as well, but I did want to throw that in there because that's an episode that I didn't remember and I was happy to see for Rainbow Dash. But on that note, my favorite character presence this season has to go to Pinkie Pie. She has great featuring episodes like Pinkie Apple Pie and Mod Pie, where her character grew but still remained her fun and peppy self while not being too overwhelming or chaotic, not taking away from the main plot of the season, but, like, intertwining her unique personality into the episodes. We really got to see all sides of her character, the impact she's made, and how she continues to grow while staying true to herself. And this is so prevalent in Pinkie Pride, which is objectively, if not one of the best episodes of the season, in my opinion. I'm gonna talk more about this later, but Pinkie Pie was my favorite part of this season. Surprisingly, that has not happened for me yet, but I loved her. Like, pretty much every episode she featured in, I loved. Then we have Twilight's arc. I'll end this off with a bit of a dive in on her whole spiel. She's now a princess, and new expectations are placed on her as a result. We see this from the very start of the premiere. Throughout the season, she continues to be a strong leader in the individual episodes, giving her a clear role. For example, I feel like she had a prominent part in helping Rarity and Rainbow find themselves, because she's kind of the one to check them, but also, like, you know, check in on them once they've figured things out and help them work through their struggles in their key episodes. So I really liked that about her. It wasn't overwhelming, but it was, you know, I found myself enjoying her role in those episodes. But when we get to the finale, we kind of see that she's still struggling to embrace and upkeep her role as princess. She doesn't feel like she has a role in that position like Celestia Luna and even Cadence do. But when Tyrek goes after the Alicorn magic, she's the only one that can feasibly go up against him because he doesn't know who she is. And even though she is the least experienced of the princesses, she is representing the element of magic. And she's able to hold her own and force Tyrek into a stalemate when he has pretty much all of Equestria's magic at this point. However, her major dilemma is when she has to decide to risk giving up her magic to save her friends or face Tyrek head on. Basically, a lose-lose situation until she realizes, wait a second, I don't need this powerful Alicorn magic. I still have the magic of friendship through my friends. I know it sounds corny, but given the show, it just works really, really well. Because she's like, my friends are more important than my fancy magic. And it just leads into a really beautiful scene. And she comes to terms into realizing her role as princess is to continue spreading the magic of friendship all over Equestria, because it's something that is special to her and her friends. And it just leads into the rest of the series really, really well. I mean, Season 5, obviously I haven't rewatched it yet, but I remember this whole spiel is super important in the premiere. So that's one thing that makes this finale so strong, and it makes Twilight's arc so strong. And I think I'd say out of each of the individual arcs, Twilight's is also one of the best and stays true throughout the entire season. So now I'm gonna kind of go over my overall thoughts after diving into that. Again, like I said, as a kid, I adored this season. I always had it as my favorite, and it stuck until now. I remember loving the premiere, the finale, Rarity, Fluttershy, Pinkie, and Twilight. Even some of the less relevant episodes like Castlemania and Power Ponies kind of stuck to me as very fun parts of the season, which I remembered almost entirely and continue to agree with. I like both of those episodes. But because of this, I think I went into this season overhyping it for myself, if that makes sense. I don't want to say that it was disappointing because I don't think it was, but I think I latched onto the high points of this season as a kid and kind of blocked out the rest. So while I was watching, I was just kind of like, oh, I don't remember this. Okay. And I kind of understand why. Maybe I just didn't absorb it as a kid. Maybe I just didn't watch those episodes as a kid. I don't know. But this season, like I've said repeatedly at this point, had some of the highest points of the entire series. But when you really place everything out and rank every single episode and average it out, it might not place as high for me as it would have at age 12 or however old I was when this season came out. So since this is an overwhelming fan favorite season, I do think it's pretty fair for me to say that I have some hot takes. I still love this season. Like I said, the overall arc that takes place leading from the premiere to the finale, it's the best so far. However, I think the consistency of the episodes and their quality isn't my favorite. I would be more likely to binge season 1 or 2 than season 4. And if I averaged out all of my ratings for the episodes into like a season average, season 4 would probably be lower. But I also feel like that, like I said, the highest points of season 4 would kind of like skew that average a little bit up. And because of this, I'm still going to put season 4 towards the top above season 1 and 3 for sure. Not sure about 2. And this is because I feel like this season of the first 4 involves each of the main characters throughout And if I just focused on the main arcs, the premiere, and the finale, it would be number one, hands down. But considering that there is a large portion of episodes that I don't care for and would probably skip upon rewatch, I don't think it's fair for me to say that it's my favorite season. And as a result, I'm putting it in second place on my list between season 2, which has great development, very consistently fun episodes, amazing premiere and finale, and then season 1 below it, which is, a fun season with pretty consistently good episodes that establish the grounding, but don't really dive deeper into those dynamics that I really enjoy in season 2 and 4. I still think season 3 is probably the weakest season so far. Remember, we have 5 more seasons to go. Due to some of its writing issues and lack of consistency and rushing, which I described in my review of that season. But I don't dislike any of these seasons. By the way, this is just my ranking as of now. So 2, 4, 1, and then 3. So now at the end of each of these videos, I always go over my highlights of the season. So favorite episodes, least favorite episodes, and then I'm going to rank the main characters based on how I felt about them strictly in that season. So only considering season 4. I've also decided to add in my favorite songs, since music is such a key part of My Little Pony, and I haven't been doing that in my videos that much, or at least I haven't been focusing on them. So I'm going to make another video about just the episodes, but I'm going to show you a tier list just to give you an idea where I stand, and I'm very indecisive, so I'm probably going to change my mind in like 1 week, but as of now, this is kind of my order. My least favorite episodes are at the bottom. Three's a Crowd, Equestria Games, Some Pony to Watch Over Me. I just found all 3 of these episodes kind of frustrating to watch, especially Some Pony to Watch Over Me. That episode just made me mad. Equestria Games gave me secondhand embarrassment, genuinely. Like, I want to feel bad for Spike, but yeah. And Three's a Crowd, it's just not very engaging and annoying. The best part of that episode was definitely Glass of Water, the song. Period. And I didn't feel like it did much for Discord as a character. And I'll discuss that more in the episode ranking, but yeah. But my favorites have to be Pinky Apple Pie, Pinky Pride, Rarity Takes Manhattan, and Mod Pie. 3 out of 4 of those have Pinkie Pie in them, centered around Pinkie Pie, just by the way. And also, please don't attack me for not putting Twilight's Kingdom up there. I promise I love that episode, but these are like my subjectively favorite kind of like, I'll go to rewatch them all the time type episodes, And then I have my pleasant surprises, which is something I like to include, like episodes that maybe I didn't remember all that well, or that I thought that I hated, but then maybe grew to like upon rewatch. And this will go to Testing 1, 2, 3. Like I said, I really enjoyed that episode for Rainbow Dash. And then Flight to the Finish, which is the CMC episode. It focuses on Scootaloo, but I didn't remember either of these episodes at all. Like, I completely forgot that they existed. But so watching them, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually really liked those episodes. So I wanted to give those mentions. As for songs, I honestly really enjoyed most of, if not all of them in this season. Even the ones that are kind of towards the bottom of my list are still kind of fun to listen to, like Bats and Make-A-Wish. But I think my favorite songs are going to have to be Find the Music in You, because the harmonization in that is just so satisfying. Like, I love a cappella. It's just really fun to listen to, especially when Fluttershy is thrown in the mix. It's just really, really fun. Then there's Goof Off, which is basically Cheese and Pinky's version of Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better, plus like, I forgot the other reference I was going to make there, but it's basically their rap battle dash musical theater show off, whatever you want to call it. It's really, really fun. And then there's Cheese Confesses, and the reason that I put this in here is that I low-key cried. So yeah, I'll elaborate on that in the episode ranking, but those were kind of like the songs that stuck with me the most. But like I said, I kind of honestly enjoyed all of the songs this season, so it was really hard for me to rank them, actually. Then I'm gonna get to the ranking of the main six. So, like I've said, Pinkie Pie wins first place. This is a little surprising to me because if you've seen my other videos, Pinkie Pie has been in the bottom two in all the previous seasons. I would just like to state this isn't because I don't like her. I like all of the main six. I enjoy all of them as characters. I love them. I say this every time so that people don't attack me, but I just didn't vibe with Pinkie as much in the first three seasons. But I loved, like I said, almost all of the episodes she featured in this season. She had great energy where she was in character but not steering away from the main plot. She wasn't annoying. She was just really, really fun throughout this entire season. 3 out of 5, I'm counting the finale as one, by the way, of my favorite episodes of this season heavily involved Pinkie Pie. Honestly, the only episode where I'd say I didn't like her was Philly Vanilli because, wow, the way she talked to Fluttershy, I didn't like that at all. But other than that, I loved her. Second place, it's got to go to Twilight. Like I said, probably the strongest writing-wise. Makes sense, she's the main character. But it really was the strongest developmental arc in this season. And she was just overall really pleasant to watch throughout the whole thing due to her positive impact on the other ponies' arcs. And I really just love seeing how far she's come since season 1. Third place goes to Rarity. Like I said, I felt like her episode worked perfectly for her. It was just really fun, and I just like Rarity. She's grown on me. You know, she actually used to be, and if you've seen my first episode, you already know this, but she actually used to be my least favorite pony of the main 6, and now she's one of my favorites. So, you know, I just really like her this season. I also thought that she was pretty good, other than Inspiration Manifestation. I don't like that episode that much, but that was more focused on Spike. So, but I do think that she was great this season. Then there's Fluttershy. I pretty much have her tied with Rarity. The only reason I feel like I put her ever so slightly below is because I liked Rarity's key episode better than Fluttershy's by a little bit. So that's the only reason why Fluttershy's below Rarity, but they'd basically be tied in terms of enjoyment otherwise. Fifth place goes to AJ. It kind of disappoints me to put her here because I love her, but Some Pony to Watch Over Me really dragged her down for me. I also didn't like her key arc as much as the other 4's key arcs that I listed so far. And then sixth place, unfortunately, goes to Rainbow Dash. Like I said, weakest key episode of the season, in my opinion, and was overall just not super pleasant. I still like her, and like I said, I really enjoyed testing 1, 2, 3, but I just really wasn't vibing with her this season, hence why she gets last place. So the average ranking has shifted a little bit. It is now, and this is averaging out how I ranked them since season 1. So as of now, the order is Fluttershy, AJ, Rarity, Twilight, Pinkie, and Rainbow. So Fluttershy has dethroned AJ and has been in the top 4 each time. Actually, she's been first, second, third, and fourth, not respectively, but like she's been first through fourth in all of the seasons that I've seen so far. The top 3 have remained the same because I had Flutter and AJ tied, and then Rarity beneath them. So now it's Flutter, AJ, Rarity. Pinkie has bumped Rainbow Dash down to last place because she was my favorite of this season. Rainbow Dash, unfortunately, has been in the lower half of my ranking every single time, so her average ends up being slightly below Pinkie's despite Pinkie placing lower in general. But that's my overall opinion of this season. I will come out with the part 2 with a more specific deep dive in each episode and my ranking of them. I also can consider doing a song ranking, but that might not be quite as interesting or engaging, so let me know if y'all want that, because I'm happy to do it. The next thing I'm going to tackle is Season 4 of Ninjago, which is one of my favorite seasons of Ninjago, so I'm super, super hyped. And I'm also really, really excited for Dragons Rising Season 2, Part 2. I've already discussed Part 1, so if you want to see that, please watch. and I'll discuss that when it comes out. I'll also try to continue my total drama discussions. I do want to note I have a pretty demanding internship right now, so my updates have been slower. I wanted to get this video out way earlier than I actually did, but I do put my work, my actual job first. But I'm gonna do my best to keep up, and I know, like, just know that I'm always working on a video, even if it's not coming out, and it's because I want them to be good quality videos. I have a few surprises that I'd like to throw in the mix too, so keep your eyes peeled. And again, thank you for all of the support on my review of the Dance Moms reunion. That was the boost of confidence and engagement that I was meaning to have. So thank you for that. And thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time for more reviews, rankings, and other fun videos.